Oh, it's a pig! We will be back after the short break.
Today's podcast brought to you by Lake Erie KayakFishing.com. Come along with me and experience one of the best freshwater fisheries in the world while chasing monsters kayak fishing Lake Erie. We now return to the show. Welcome to the Lake Erie Kayak Anglers Podcast, the podcast designed to make you a better angler. I'm Chuck Earls from Lake Erie KayakFishing.com. Today I have a special co-host, Mike Elsea, joining me today. We're going to be interviewing the USA Predator fishing team. We have Ryan Buddie and Nick Schertz with us today. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Glad to have us on.
Doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to have you on, fellas.
Yeah, so basically what we're going to do, I have a list of questions. Mike has put together a list of questions, and we're just going to kind of ping pong. I'll give you guys a question, give each of you an opportunity to answer it if you want to. And then Mike will field the next question to you guys, and we'll just kind of go from there. And, just have fun. There's no expectations or anything other than to kind of promote what you guys did and your trip. And, maybe you give us some secrets for this tournament next week.
Yeah.
So first question I have, real simple, basically, just want to kind of get to know you guys a little bit better. Ryan, I know we've fished together in the Lake Erie Walleye Trail. Nick, I don't know you. I know you're in the Masters Walleye circuit.
National Walleye Tour. I fished, and every year except last year I fished head to head. Then now back in the National Walleye Tour again now. So, yep.
Cool. So I want to give you guys an opportunity just to give us a little bit of background. A few key points that I have. What inspired you to get into fishing? What was the turning point in your career that you think was the number one action that propelled you to where you are today? And what goals do you have moving forward in the future?
I'll take that. So what inspired me to go fishing? I mean, I don't, that was just one of those things, like I don't remember the first time I went fishing. It was just, a super little kid. My grandpa and my dad got me into it. I grew up with the Rocky River right in my backyard, a great steelhead river. And then my grandpa had a boat. So, he'd taken me out in Lake Erie, and it was just like, one of those things you just did, just like you walk, you breathe, you fish, it was just something. I was never sick of fishing, so, that's what got me into it for sure. And that's, nothing's changed with regards to that too. And, now because of that, I have a passion for getting kids involved with fishing as well, my own kids and kids clinics and all that, but then, to your next point, the one thing for sure stands out, and what, the biggest thing that propelled me to, into this career, in fishing. And, probably one of the most important things I did in my life was, when I was when I was in college, summers in college, I worked construction for my dad, and I was really sick of shoveling gravel and, wheelbarrow concrete and, things like that. And I just I got to go find something else that's more me, and I flooded the market up, and I got this idea to go up to Alaska and be a fishing guide. I flooded the market up there with a bunch of resumes and made a bunch of phone calls, and just was really persistent about it. And I ended up getting a job as a fishing guide in Alaska, so that put me into fishing as a job, and it really taught me just a lot of great life lessons, not just fishing, but, responsibility, work ethic, all those kinds of things, and found that, hey, I can make a career of something that I love to do, So that's, and then just the fishing aspect, it diversified me as a fisherman too, river fishing, salmon, trout, all that. And then, then I came back after college back to Ohio here, and just started getting into walleye fishing, and then from there turned into, well, might as well compete. I'm competitive, just small little tournaments, and grew into, I've been doing, I think in 2010 I started in the Masters walleye circuit. That was the first time I got into like a national level, and every year since then I've been doing that. And then what was the last part you said? Oh, goals. Goals. I've always wanted to win like one of the biggest, in the biggest events that I've been doing. And if you would have asked me before this last event, I would have probably told you my biggest goal in fishing would be to win a national walleye tour, which I haven't done that. I've come close, but I haven't done that yet. But now I would rather win this. I mean, there's something special, like, winning a gold medal for the United States of America, wearing the red, white, and blue. I mean, when I first saw that jersey with USA Angling on it, I almost, I got emotional about it, a little bit. And then, and seeing those guys win and, the gold medal and national anthem and all that, like, that's it, man. There's no paycheck associated with that. So what? There's some things that are priceless in life. So, that would be it for me, Sorry, that was a little long-winded, but I think I got your question. So
I was checking out some of the previous YouTube videos on some of the events that the FIPSED puts on, and it's an emotional experience. You're standing there representing your country, surrounded by people just like you representing their country, in just a collective location. It's I don't know. I don't know if you can ever explain that feeling.
Yeah.
Ryan, you hit that right on the head, man. When you talked about it being an emotional experience for sure. When I know, speaking for myself and probably Chuck too at this point, but when we got the call to be a part of what we're a part of here with the kayak deal, I mean, it was all I could do just to contain myself. And then again, just the other day when I got our jerseys in the mail and I opened that box, I saw my name on that jersey. I about lost it again. So
yeah, wait till you get over there.
Exactly what you're talking about, man.
Yeah, wait till you get over there and you're about to get on the water with that jersey on,
Right?
The opening ceremonies and all that, So
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool experience for sure,
That's absolutely, man.
Nick, let's
Nick,
hear
did you
it.
want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up on in another walleye factory. You guys coming from Erie, I grew up on the Winnebago system, and I like Ryan. I kind of born into a fishing family, and for as far back as I can remember, that's what we did. I was I'm an outdoorsman now, and I grew up an outdoorsman, spending a lot of time hunting and fishing. And when we were younger, my dad got us into a little bit of commercial fishing starting when I was probably like 8 years old. And I did that in the summers from the time I was 8 till about the time I was out of college. From about 8 to 22, I commercial fished in the summer, which put me on the water every single day, usually 2 or 3 times. And just being on the water all the time, I just, I was like, I couldn't get enough of it. And I kind of went on different whims of multi-species fishing, from walleyes to bass to catfish to just about everything, panfish. And, went through my stint once I got my driver's license of running around and trout fishing, fly fishing. And I knew my dad did some of the local events on Winnebago, and I knew that kind of really interested me. I started jumping in a few with him, and then when he kind of had somebody else he fished with, so I jumped in with a neighbor and won a local event. I think when I was in like, I don't know, I was probably like 17 or 18, and won a local event, a pretty big event on Winnebago. And I mean, I knew that's what I wanted to shoot for. I went to college at University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, one of the biggest college and natural resources in the country. And, I knew I wanted to be involved in water. I got a water chemistry major and ended up with a few degrees in the water, aquatic toxicology and water chemistry. and worked in the consulting for that water and soil cleanup. But, my goal was always to start fresh, buy my own boat and start doing it. So I, shortly out of college, I bought a boat, bought a motor a little bit later, pieced everything together, and I started fishing in late 90s. I graduated from college in 97. By 99, I had a boat put together that I could kind of fish some small local tournaments. And then about the time the FLW started the state leagues, I started fishing the Pro-Am format in 04, and then started fishing pro circuit as a pro in 09. And I've been doing that ever since. So it's like Ryan said, it's all, everything you do is like it's like a chapter in your career. And sometime along the line around 2013, I got involved because I ice fish quite a bit. I live up in a very cold climate, and I've always been crazy into ice fishing as well, because that's really all you can do in winter when you live up here. So I got involved in Team USA on the ice side in 2013, and that really fit me well right off the bat. That's very, it's a very different discipline than United States ice fishing, because it's no electronics and no power. So it's all hand augering and just basics. So it's almost like an athletic competition. It goes really fast. It's short heats. Anyway, I competed in that successfully, probably for up until now. We've kind of missed a few years because of COVID, but should be going back to Estonia here this winter. But during the course of that, I met a lot of our U.S. delegates for FIPSED, the same governing body of all this stuff. And they confronted me about, if I would be interested in helping put together a team for Predator, being that I was fishing the walleye tours. So that's when I started reaching out and talking to different people that are multi-species anglers, and trying to put together the right kind of people that would, I kind of judge basically looking at people that they're going to have the same gut feeling of what Ryan said, because, I had been there on the ice, and I know that my hair stands up when I put that jersey on and I'm representing my country, and that there is nothing that is like that at all. And I kind of thought about that. I, helped get some of these guys assembled, and we're off to the races with it. And that's kind of how it all started. And so far, I feel like, just like with ice, every trip we do, this is my third one that I've fished in for Predator. And, we learn a little bit, even though we're going to different countries and fishing different species of fish, you still, you write a new chapter and you learn more every time. And we, it's tough under the way we're doing it with just the 2 official practice days, rather than spending some time ahead of time, like most of the other countries are doing at these bodies of water. But every one we do, we gain a little bit more invaluable knowledge. So I feel like we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
Good.
I agree. I'm I don't know. It's what, less than a week away. We fly out on Thursday. Actually, Wednesday we'll be over for the Lake Erie Walleye Trail thing, me and Ryan, and then Thursday we fly out fishing on Friday.
Yeah, it's crazy. And
Yeah.
it'll go fast.
The other side of the world.
Yeah, and then like 2 weeks from now, you'll talk. You give me a call and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I know double what I know about fishing now than I did 2 weeks ago." Like,
Right.
that's what you're gonna feel like, after
Right.
that. So
That's awesome. I want to dig into that, what we started to touch on just a few minutes ago there, Ryan. That feeling, that first initial feeling that you had when you got that call to join Team USA. Really delve into that. What did that mean to you?
well, honestly, so I was following these guys. I was following Nick and Max and stuff. In the previous years, I think it was starting in England, and then actually John Gilman, he was on the England team, and I talked to him quite a bit about it beforehand. And that just kind of got me into it. He didn't really tell me like, he said, I'm going to England to fish in a tournament. I'm like, well, sweet. How do I get in that? Sign me up, like, I'll go, like, I just thought it was like any other tournament, and then I started finding out about it more. And then I actually just reached out to Max Wilson, who, is our team captain. And I was like, I just said, Max, like, what can I do to help? Like, how can I help? Like, is there anything that I can do to support you guys, whatever. And then, he talked to Ben, which he's our team manager, and, maybe some of the other guys. And then they're just like, hey, we'd love to have you. I'm like, really? Seriously? Okay, let's go, game on, and, the hard thing about it for me too was, this was like 3 years ago. So I these conversations happened just after these guys got back from South Africa that was what, early 2020, or no, that was end of 2019.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, end of 2019. And then I was like, okay, we're going to Poland in 9 months, and that's early 2020. Well, you guys know what happened with that. And then another year, and then, last year got canceled too, because there just wasn't going to be enough participation in travel with the travel restrictions and all. And then not here. So it's like, it's like heartbreaking, like all these years. And then even this year we only almost had a heartbreak too, because it was supposed to be in Poland, and then Poland had to cancel because, of all the Ukrainian refugees and security issues possibly, and being so close proximity to the war. That, we in July we got notification that it was canceled, and that they're looking for another venue but not sure. And at that point, I think, I don't know about you, Nick, but I mean, speaking, my thoughts were like, well, putting something together, an event of this magnitude in 3 months, like, I don't know.
I didn't think it would happen. No, I didn't think it would happen at all.
Yeah, and then we got the news that, okay, Czech Republic's doing it, and off we go, and it was like, it was kind of minimal time to plan, and like, is it really going to happen, and then it did. So it was kind of like
sounds like a roller coaster there for you.
It was a big time roller coaster, and
I was like 100% we weren't going to go, and then I'm like, yeah, there's exactly like Ryan said, there's no way we're going, because it's way too short a notice to put something together. And then they're like, a week later they came out and, yeah, they moved it, and I'm like, oh, really? Well, let's go.
All right.
And I think thankfully everybody pretty much had that attitude, and like, it's just, like I say, it's just the right group of guys. And I mean, I think I knew about Ryan before Ryan knew about Ryan. That's what's kind of funny, because John Gilman brought him up to me when I started talking to John Gilman about it, and he started giving me Ryan's background. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like it'll work. So yeah, it's worked out great. We had a good time together, and all of us worked together really well, and that's important for everybody to get along. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the dynamics of our team too, we're all come from a little bit, different backgrounds, and maybe, I think we're all very well versatile fishermen, but we all also sort of maybe have like a little bit sort of different specialties or different experiences, and I think that's important as a team, to, come together, so.
That's what makes
it learn a lot from each other, the different techniques, different styles of fishing. I mean, even here on Lake Erie, you can go 20 miles down the shoreline, and there's different techniques that are more prominent.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time with our group talking about how we were gonna attack, our body of water, the Slappy Dam Reservoir. And one of the things we had a consensus on going into it without any preconceived notions, was that our best opportunity in our short practice would be to go there and try to fish our own styles of fishing, and just try to block out all the info that we're getting, and just go use our own fishing brains and our own instinct, and try to fish the way we would fish for pike or walleye. And it didn't take too long to find out that was not going to work really well, because we weren't fishing for our pike or our walleye. So
or our perch,
exactly. So I mean, that's a good piece of advice. I always say going into a tournament that you should try not to have any preconceived notions, and you'll do better.
The old adage is go fish your strengths, right?
Right.
We've all
we
heard
tried
that.
to fish our style, and then we realized that our style was not going to work. So we had to adjust on the fly, and that seems to be, often the case with tournament fishing. So.
Yeah.
Right. Well, before we dive into the event and all that good stuff, let's talk about getting there. What tips, tricks, snags, things that you think we need to know as far as transporting our gear over there, getting it there safely? One of my biggest concerns is, what if it gets lost along the way? The airport, we have 3 planes, I think. So I don't know.
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, I'll tell you, take as much as you can carry on, So like my carry-on bags, I could speak for all of us too. My carry-on backpack weighed about 60 pounds, of metal and jigs and, blades and blade baits, but like, just, stuff like that. I mean, and I can tell you, but like, just kind of do some research with the TSA and whatnot, like, tools
Right.
over 6 inches, stuff like that. Now, the lithium batteries was an interesting one because I forget there's a certain, what was it, an amperage or a wattage, Nick?
I think it's like volts times amp hours has to be under 160 or 180 or something like that.
And the lithium batteries got to be carry-on too. You can't check them, So, we had that for our live sonars, Now that was Nick and John brought those, and you guys didn't have a problem getting them there. It was getting home. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you lose your battery there, Nick?
I lost mine. Yeah, I lost mine on the way back as well.
Yeah.
And instead of bringing 2 big ones, I brought a big one and a small one. Based on that equation, I thought, well, I'll try to get away with one, and then I'll bring that smaller one. And that smaller Dakota lithium that I had was okay.
Yeah.
But the other one, the larger 18 amp hour one was not going to go. So I had to leave that one there.
Yeah.
So
What was the smaller? The 9 amp?
it was it was a 12 volts 7 amp hour Dakota lithium off of like a just a Humminbird Helix 5 ice unit,
Right.
which
Yeah.
doesn't last very long, but I knew that I could get that there, so I would have a little time with it. So anyway,
and the other thing with with gear and stuff, I mean, the only thing you can do is just be like that you can control. Put all your put your tags on your bags. Get to the airport that you're leaving from early, because that's one of your controllables. After that, it's a lot of uncontrollables. So
Right.
getting there as soon as you can, and you know what? It's just like anything. You just like tournament fishing. Something goes wrong, you figure a way out to improvise. Find a tackle shop, find something. You're only
That's usually when you learn
Yeah.
the most, right?
Yeah, exactly. You'll figure it out. Find a buddy. People people there will. You throw them a bone, they'll throw you a bone. Help them out. And so you'll figure it out. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Control.
yeah, I haven't had anything lost in luggage, and I've traveled overseas now for international trips probably 9 or 10 times, and still haven't really lost anything. So I don't think that's a big deal. It's almost, I think it's more unnerving as you're packing and trying to thin all your gear down. But once you get it down to where you're comfortable, like make a couple hot boxes, try to take a lot of stuff, but not too much of anything. That's kind of the key. And then when you narrow it down, and you're looking at a couple bags, you know, your luggage, it's a little calming realizing you really don't have as much stuff to keep track of as you do for a regular tournament. So in that end, once you get your bags packed and you're comfortable that you've gone through everything, I think it's important to look at your hot boxes when you're stealing from a bunch of different Plano boxes and consolidating. Just keep looking at those every day for a few days so you kind of memorize where everything's at, so you're not digging around too much. But do that, and then yeah, I think pack everything up and you should be fine. Get your stuff over there, and just the more you kind of memorize where everything's at when you consolidate, that'll just save time for you there. And it's actually, like I say, it's kind of calming when you realize I only have 2 suitcases full of tackle to deal with instead of a whole truckload. So
Right.
from that aspect, it's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
So,
Now your rods, do your rods go on with like a carry on, or did you check them?
well, the rods, like, so I take a big Plano tube that I have,
You got that?
and
Yep.
and I've flown with rods more than anybody on this planet because I do it all the time
Okay.
with work and stuff. So I'll tell you what, the best thing to do is take your rods and electrical tape them butt to tips, you know, so one butt on one tip and the other, you know, butt to the other tip, electrical tape them together, and then just build a bundle, you know,
Yep.
into that, and then bubble wrap them and then put them in the tube and just put some foam on either end of the tube and they'll never break, you know.
That's
And,
a great tip.
you know, being around airplanes a lot, you know, we didn't mention that, but my full-time career, I'm an airline pilot, you know, so that's my job. So I know how these baggage handlers treat bags, you know. So and it's not good. And when you're in a 400,000 pound airplane and you can feel the airplane shake and rattle because of bags, it's not good, you know. So
Again, does your rod tube get treated as checked baggage, or is that?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you have to check that.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could take it through security, but they're gonna check it. You know, you could put it through I don't even know if they will let you do that. They may or may not, but because it's not like a dangerous item. But once you get to the airplane, they're gonna say, "Oh, you got to check this," you know, and they're gonna throw it down in the compartment.
That's
there.
what we put. Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you'll check it. It'll be another, you know, one of your bags, you know.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
same thing, you know, like for, you know, even like, you know, glide baits or like, you know, like your puppet minnows or shiver minnows or jigging wraps, or, you know, and I don't even know if you're going to want that kind of stuff, but even them, I just bubble wrap them like a little bit and then put them in the Plano boxes. Because if those things, you know, rattle around, what's going to happen? The tails are going to break off of them, you know. I use a just in case box for those in the boat, which is awesome because they'll never get broken in there. But it wasn't practical to, you know, pack my huge just in case glide bait box, you know.
Right.
Well, just think of things like that, you know.
Very good. Yeah, I think I want to even like maybe duct tape all my Plano boxes shut inside inside the suitcase, so that way there's no chance of anything popping open, you know. Last thing I'd want is a bunch of tungsten weights falling out or something, or hooks or whatever, you know.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Very good.
That's probably the least of our worries.
Yeah, you got other things to worry about.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, so as far as any other tips traveling wise, yeah, you've got all your tackle, right? You've got your rods all duct taped together or taped together, like you said, and cushioned up in your rod tube. Touch just a little bit more.
Use electrical tape so it doesn't get all, you know.
Sticky.
That's what I meant. I call everything duct tape, but that's just the way I talk. So touch just a little bit more on the battery issue. Nicholas, there was an equation, right, that you had for.
Yeah, it sounded like the power over voltage times current, right?
I think so. I think it was I'd have to look it up, but yeah, it was something like that. And
So it's basically a resistance rating.
right, for your lithiums. And it didn't seem like leaving the United States they were that concerned about it, as long as it was in your carry-on, because if they start on fire, they want to be able to put it out, and that's why you can't put it in the check bag. I carried my Garmin live scope in a shuttle, in like a ice bundle, essentially. And then we basically mounted the transducer every day to the bow mount of whatever boat we were in. So we just had to basically screw the deucer on, and then quick zip tie or electrical tape it to the shaft, each day, which didn't take too long. And I guess what I would do if you're worried about losing a bunch of batteries on the way home is the smaller, like ice unit size batteries, is bring 2 or 3 of those, maybe, if you're worried about like I had an 18 amp that I lost, 18 amp hour battery, that's a pretty expensive battery that I wasn't able to bring back. So I mean, I guess unless you're the other option would be to try to get it on. I had somebody, that dropped us off at the airport, that if I didn't get on with it, I could have left it with my daughter and at the airport. But once I got on, another plan would be to think about selling it when you're over there. You could take if you get a bigger one, like the 18 amp hour, if you're running any kind of a forward facing sonar unit, and you want a bigger one, maybe just talk to people over there and try to set up selling it over there would be a good gig. And I mean, and that goes for anything tackle wise that, is a pain to travel with. You could always, sell something while you're over there. So that's always an option. I think that's a great option for batteries, because a battery is just a battery. It's not like your favorite fishing rod or something like that. And there's probably people over there you could get at least a fair price for a lithium battery over there that did buy it, so that's something to think about.
And I just found it, real quick, for the limit. It's 100 watt hours is the max you can have, and the watt hours is just amps times volts. So
Amps times volts.
Yep. So you basically, for a 12 volt, you can have an 8 amp hour battery is about the most you can have.
Oh man, that's interesting, because that when you put it in those terms, it seems like that really limits the amount of power that you can have to run a unit. For example, I typically run a Lowrance Elite 9 TI unit. I had planned on taking a 12 volt 23 amp hour battery with me to do all that. So that sounds like that might be a little much.
Yeah, or just, the other thing is just buy it over there and then sell it over there,
Yeah.
So, or
both John Boyer and I were both able to get our batteries over there, and he had 2 Dakota Lithium 23 amp hour batteries, but they were sticklers on it on the way back. So
okay. Getting there is no problem. Getting the way back, okay, that makes things easier. I like the idea that you just suggested about just even putting it up for sale, or just even giving it to somebody over there. That'd be fine.
Exactly. Even gifting it to somebody is a great idea as well.
Right on.
And if you don't, like, if you're in a situation where you can't get the bigger one over, I guess the best thing you could do is have a bunch, like 3 or 4 of the smaller ones, because even when Ryan and I ran with my little Dakota Lithium, that 12.7, I mean, that still ran for like 3 to 4 hours, even with a big unit on it. So
okay,
even if you can get a couple of those to string your day together, you'd maybe be okay doing that too.
Right on. Okay, gotcha.
And there's no limit on the amount of batteries that you can take, just the size of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming it's probably going to be very difficult to ship them over. If we were just
I don't know. I didn't try any of that. I'm not sure how that would go.
Or even order them and have them delivered over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a contact over there, that might be something that you could work out with somebody ahead of time.
Well, our other teammate, Eric Jackson, he's got the Apex factory an hour away, I think he said.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we can always just, I don't know, ship something there if it gets there early. Doesn't
Sure.
matter. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, how about we get into let's talk about some Zander. Well, we'll talk about some walleye too. We'll start with what differences did you realize when you got over there as opposed to like our walleye, our Lake Erie walleye?
Typically when you get to that fall fishing for us, October is, you know, you guys know obviously that walleye seem to start getting more aggressive, putting that feed bag on and putting some weight on over the winter. And so we went over there thinking that we would be doing a lot of snap jigging, aggressive fishing for fish that were going to be actively starting to put on weight, you know, going into the winter. And what we found was the Zander they weren't at all like walleye as far as aggressiveness in this time of year. And they wanted, you know, what they were eating was just very more subtle. And even some of the people we talked to there, some of the other people from different countries that have fished Zander more were telling us how Zander will even eat some dead bait, you know. So, you know, everything that we could tell, we weren't catching them well by our typical lift and drop snap jigging techniques. And it seemed like, you know, we were learning that our whatever we were fishing with had to stay closer to the bottom, and it had to move consistently slow. And any kind of a fast movement. And I mean, what I always tell people is to try to visualize what that fish is doing. You can kind of look with your forward facing sonar and kind of see what they're doing, but it was really hard to fish, like to live scope fish, just because the fish were actually swimming around pretty well, but you couldn't move a bait at the speed they were fishing. So like what I was trying to explain is it was almost mathematically impossible to just cast at one and try to target an individual fish, because as fast as the fish were moving, if you move your bait that fast, they wouldn't bite it. So in the end, it was the Zander were much less aggressive than our walleyes are for this time of year. That's what we found. And we made those adjustments. And every day Ryan and I fished, we were able to kind of, I think, visualize how those fish really wanted it better. And once we understood that, we kind of knew how they were tracking it back to the boat. Even though we were fishing it slow, it was just, you know, the right cadence that triggered the bites. And it was very subtle and very slow. And so, I mean, from that, the biggest thing is the biggest takeaway is the Zander were much less aggressive than walleye. Even though the bites were hard, in general, they didn't feed as aggressively. So.
What was the clarity where you guys were fishing in the Czech Republic?
It was probably what, Ryan, you think?
2-3 feet?
Yeah, I was going to say 3 feet. 3 feet. It was clear water that was
like
tannic stained water, tea colored water, but it was clear. It wasn't turbid. So
yeah,
it was darker water. We were fishing in like a lot of, not much shallower than 25, a lot of 25, 26 feet of water, you know, and varying a little bit deeper as the day wore on, a little bit shallower in the morning.
What was the water temperatures of that since you were fishing that deep? What were the water temperatures like?
I think it was like about 60 degrees, right, Nick?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like one of the things, kind of like, you know, touching on what Nick said and adding to it is, you know, one way we're used to, you know, on the aggressive standpoint of fishing is we're used to, you know, we put a lot of us put our forward facing sonar on our bow mounts, and we're running around and, you know, active targeting those fish, like sniping them, chasing them around and cast into those individual ones. And the problem we found with that is when you're moving like that, so is your bait moving. You know, it's hard to as precisely as we needed to control our bait and move that, we were casting, using swim baits and move those along the bottom to just get that tail of that swim bait just barely wobbling. If you're moving in the boat, it just didn't seem to work, so it ended up kind of like one of the breakthroughs, I think, is when we found out, like, okay, we need to just spot lock, where we're just sitting there, almost. And at one point we even actually just dropped a reel anchor instead of spot locking with the bow mount, and just to try to keep that much more precise on our spot and not worry about what the bow mount was doing. And then we could more precisely control our baits, and that seemed to be a thing, and I think, like, the other thing too, a difference I would say too, is these fish seem to be deeper, like, I'm like, why can't we go up and fish up in 8 feet of water, like a reservoir? Like, hey, if I'm going to go fish a reservoir in Ohio, in the fall, I'm casting a blade bait up in 3 feet of water, for walleyes,
Right.
and it just didn't seem like that. They just seemed to be deeper, those fish. And, like, we were throwing quarter-ounce jig in 30 feet of water, and so, like, that's crazy, like, it would never do that,
Quarter ounce. It'd take a minute to get down there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Light line, I suppose, too, though, right?
It was every day we figured it out a little bit better. We started with heavier jigs and we caught some fish, but we were missing where these fish they'd snap at it, and it just, with the heavier jig, they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't suck it in, and they weren't going to hit it again. It was kind of a one bang. And we basically knew that it would be harder to fish that depth. And, with that kind of a bait, it's just not the right setup. But, you just have to get into that mindset that it has to be that, and we have to stay in bottom contact, and it has to be slow. So what that evolved into is going lighter and slower. And we started, landing more fish. More of our bites would get hooked up. I mean, we missed a few, but we weren't even putting a hook in any of those fish. They wouldn't even get the bait. So then once we dialed it into the lighter baits, we actually started getting them to get it in their mouth better. And there was so many things that we dialed in, and a little bit better every day. With we were in a small creek arm, quite a ways, almost a mile back up in a creek arm off the main channel. And it wasn't a real wide channel, and it had more of a flux current, like a wind that would fill it up. It would fill up and then drain. So there was always current going one way or the other. And it was very critical, to every day to realize which way the fish were facing in that current, and how, you could optimize your bait in their face better. What way would they get on it and track it and bite better? Every day it seemed like fishing, a certain way with or against the current was better. So we had to really stay in tune with that. And we were able to spot lock in each fish a different direction until we kind of, had more bites in a certain direction, and then capitalize on that once we figured that out. Another thing that came into play that was really cool was, if you visualize that swim bait, when you cast, let it hit bottom, and then, we're basically slow. It was the one turn of the reel, stop, one slow turn of the reel, stop, one slow, and every time you're not moving your rod, you're moving the reel. So as that bait gets closer to the boat, the angle's changing. And once it got into that realm of, closer to a 45-degree angle, you got to realize one turn of the reel is going to make it move farther. And I think those fish that were tracking that bait realized, same speed, but he's moving farther and getting away from me now. And then they'd attack it. That's just at least how I visualized it, because we'd get to that 45, like that last 20 feet, try to fish it all the way to vertical. And so many a lot of those bites, certain days, it seemed like a lot of those bites came in that last little bit. And it was just the way that bait was moving a little farther with that crank when the angle was steeper. So just little nuances like that were very critical to figuring it out.
Yeah. And, just like that, like when we were fishing those heavier baits, all of the bites on those heavier baits, when they came, they all came like, so one of the rules of this tournament too is you are not allowed to fish vertical. So you have to be you have to be bringing it in. It's got to be, you can do pauses, but you got to always be coming forward. So we would do that until it was, just about to the vertical point. When we were fishing those heavier ones, all those bites came in that last little bit. And we were thinking about it, and it's like, well, that last little bit, it's moving forward so much slower pace than when you cast it way out there, So then using those lighter jigs and then figuring that out. And just like Nick said, when those bites came at that 45, we had a lot more of our cast. It was kind of like we were able to make effective, so we started not just catching fish close to the boat, but, in different realms too, but still, that 45 to in was definitely the key zone, so.
It was fun.
Yeah,
That's
it
amazing.
was a lot of fun, man.
That's what you call getting
we-
dialed in.
We should why don't we let you guys just kind of paint us the picture of from the day that you landed, going through practice, the struggles, the wins, and just share it with us. And before we get started, this was just so everybody listening knows, it was the Carnivorous Artificial Bait Boat Angling World Championship, right, in the Czech Republic.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, I mean, so we all kind of, had our various flights and met over there and all got in the van. There was, and headed up. It was pretty interesting packing everybody up into this van and all of our luggage. And, we, one thing we did is we got there a day early, a day before the official registration, which I think was a good thing, because you're on a 6-hour time change, and just getting there and getting, settled into our rooms and checking that out. And, we went out, I think, we went out and, just saw a little bit of, went to a local Czech restaurant and, just kind of got a little bit of the lay of the land. And I don't know, almost, even just build some team camaraderie a little bit too there, and then, then it was just come up with there's the registration, and then there's the opening ceremonies, and then it's like, okay, now everybody's showing up, all these different countries, all the different languages, you start seeing media showing up, everybody's flags are out there, and then you kind of, one of the things for us, it was kind of like, the cards are kind of stacked against us going over to a different country overseas, there's a lot of things, the different species. But then one of the things was like, you see the boats, it's like, okay, here we go, because I think there was 16 countries, and 14 out of the 16 countries brought their own boats, because they're all within driving range in Europe. The only countries that didn't have their own boats were us and Ireland. And so the host country has to provide rental boats. And, some of these boats were, they were pretty bare bones, like, 16 footers, maybe 17, little outboards,
15, 14.
14, I think we were in, so it's kind of like, but, we've made it work, and, then it's 2 days of practice. So 2 official days of practice. Nick and I, and then John and Max were in a boat, and then our team manager and our sub were in another boat, so they can fish for the first 2 days of practice. And you get like 8 hours. I think it was like 7 hours or something like that. You get 2 days of practice, and that's it. And then you got to go. And the other unusual challenge for this tournament, and just so you understand a little bit about the format, is it's the carnivore boat angling. So we're out of boats, carnivorous, go through it's predator fish. Okay. So whatever the host country determines the predator fish that they want you to target on that body of water, we go after. So one of the interesting dynamics of it is there's 4 different species we could target. It was Zander, pike, perch, and asp. So part of the gamesmanship of this, and part of the poker match, you could say, of it is okay, what species do we target? Because the way it works is they take the length, there's a minimum scoreable length for each of those species. And then they take the length of that fish in centimeters and they square it, So you got to kind of run the algorithm like, okay, if I catch if I catch a 30 centimeters perch, that's 900 points. Okay. If I catch a 60 centimeter Zander, that's 3,600 points, So I got to catch 4 perch to 1 Zander, Can I do that? And you have 2 days to figure that out, So
Right.
and figure out, hey, what can you catch? What's worthwhile to target, and which one do you want to target? So it's a heck of a challenge, and that's kind of what we're trying to figure out in those 2 days of practice. And then, then the tournament becomes a learning experience too, that you can adjust,
Right.
So
Yeah, we're pretty lucky that we're getting over 3 days before the official day off of the event, right?
Right.
There's 1 day that the water's off the limit.
Monday is off limits. Yeah, Monday is
right.
the opening ceremonies and all that. So,
But we're getting there Friday morning, so we'll have hopefully Friday to explore the waterway. Saturday, Sunday to pre-fish. Monday is off limits, and then Tuesday, Wednesday would be tournament practice.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, if it's anything like this one, if these other countries approach it anything like this, those guys are already on the water right now as we're speaking, because like for ours, we have this week-long closed practice. Well, some of these teams were there for a month prior to that, and they had 3 or 4 boats on the water every day for that month practicing, and then they go off for the official practice. So, it's something that we weren't able to make happen, but like, hey, next time I'll try to find a way to make it happen, like just, anything. And there's some discussion on should that be, should it be a further off limits time, to even the playing field or whatnot. But, it's a heck of a challenge for us, so.
What's your opinion on that? Whether it should be, a further off limits time, or if it really matters to you?
No, I'd like to see like either more official practice or a bigger chunk of off limits, like 2 or 3 weeks, or something like that, just to even
change things up a little bit.
I don't know. It's tough the way it is for sure, but
there's always 2 sides of every coin, that. I mean, you'd have the next Predator World Championships could be here in our own land.
Well, it is,
right?
Okay,
so then you got all this time to prepare for it, right? And they don't. So it's gonna up and down.
Yeah,
but I definitely see it.
They'll be here though. There's countries there that are more funded by their government they'll have boats here for a month here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would bet. I'm sure some of them are actually talking about coming this year yet to look at it now even. So, so we'll see.
Where's it going to be?
We're having it at right now. It's planned for Green Bay, in the Lower Bay and in the Fox River.
Oh.
And I don't know exactly what they're going to do for boundaries yet, but that's what we're looking at. And yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a great opportunity for us, and we're all excited. But I also, on the other hand, I'm realistic, and I understand that I've been to 3 of these now, and I have not seen the home country even medal yet in 3 of them. So it's definitely it's nice to have some home field advantage, but I haven't seen the home team take advantage of it yet. So that's interesting too. You got to realize these guys are all mostly professional tournament fishermen as well, and they're good at it. And who knows, I hope we can take the advantage and bring it home, but I'm also realistic that it's not going to be a picnic, and we're going to have to work really hard, to try to make sure we get everything dialed as best we can. It's still fishing.
Right.
Yep. There's a reason it's a world championship, right? Because you're competing against the best in the world.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you think like, I mean, these these guys are they're like, I mean, I knew they would be good, but like they're really good, like I'll just being in the fishing industry and around fishermen my whole life, you could just tell when someone's a legit good fisherman. Every single one of these guys that I met from all these different countries, you could just tell that they, just the way they, just even the way a guy ties a knot or handles the rods or, like, I mean, you could just tell, these guys are, just the way their mannerisms in their boats and, netting a fish and these guys are, they're dialed, so it's a legit world championship for sure.
Well, it sounds like to me, as far as being dialed, the way you just described how you all got dialed in throughout your practice to, figure out that it was a certain angle and a certain speed and all of that before you actually got a good solid bite. It sounds like to me they're just lucky that the tournament wasn't like 4 days long instead of 2, because you were on it. You were on it.
Well, so what happened too, like, and why we didn't do better than we did is the thing is it became a perch tournament. The perch, the guys, they get some, we caught some perch, but like we just felt like from the information that we had, our chances were better targeting Zander. Well, it turned out that, and maybe that was the best we could do, was targeting Zander for us. But the teams that went out and targeted perch and figured out and dialed the perch, they're the ones who blew it open, and blew it away. So it became a perch tournament. Nick and I were talking, like if this was a Zander tournament, we would have done really, really well. And, even if we had days like our second and third day, all 3 days, and then our other teammates had those days, we would have been close. I think we figured we would have been close to medaling, on that.
Yeah.
We still wouldn't have beat the teams like Estonia and Lithuania were really dialed in on the perch. I mean, one of the days they caught 70 perch, 70 scoreable perch,
Nice.
So, and the thing too is, the first day of the tournament, we get back there, in our spot, and actually we couldn't even get right into our spot. There's a 50-meter rule. You have to be 50 meters from any other boats that are set up and fishing, and each boat has a rangefinder, and you have your marshal on the boat that, confirming that. Well, we get back there, and of course we're not winning any boat races with our 25 horse flat bottom boat, and
Little John boat.
yeah, we get back there, and both the Czech teams and the Poland team were back in the area kind of that we wanted to be. We couldn't quite get to it, but the Czech team, hey, this is their home body of water, and they were clearly targeting Zander. And the Czech team's really good. I think they won. Nick, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think they won
They won in South Africa, and they were second, I think, at England. So
England,
they're a
yeah.
very good team.
Yeah, and then their home body of water, and they're targeting Zander, and it's their home body of water, and they were wrong on the species to target too, So it's not easy, that's for sure, But we, if it was a Zander tournament, I think we would have done very well, And
Right.
even if we were as dialed, from day one or two, if we had one more day and then we put our other USA team on the same program, who knows, we might have been dangerous. But, one of the things we decided, as a team after day one, when we realized, okay, these guys are blowing it up on the perch, and Nick and I, we didn't start figuring out our Zander. We caught 4 on the first day, and we caught them all late in the afternoon after we started making these adjustments and kind of got more on to where we wanted to be. We're like, well, we think we can progress a lot with his Zander. And Nick and John, you guys go out and see if you can unlock
Max and John, yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Max and John, you guys go out and see if you can unlock this perch thing. And it's the other interesting thing it's we're not, used to is communication's allowed. So we're allowed to like call each other on phones,
Yeah.
And this is crazy too. Just like some of these other countries, they had like they had like 8 or 10 man teams there. There's only 4 guys on the water, but their other 6 guys are all around the lakes, maybe in the woods with binoculars and calling and making reports, and like, you know, and all that's within the realm of the rules, you know. So it's just like, you know,
Yeah, that's a lot different from
yeah, it's definitely different, you
the
know.
Lake Erie Walleye Trail. No communication.
No, yeah. So
Yeah, it was cool how we were able to go, you know, that first day we didn't catch anything till afternoon. We just couldn't get on the right spot, and we didn't really realize how we had to work that angle and that current quite right. Caught 4 and missed a few we didn't execute great, and we figured by the next day we could at least double that up, and we came close. We came in, went from 4 to 7, and then, you know, and that moved us. You know, the first day I think Ryan and I were 20 out of 32 boats with, you know, kind of a slow morning and not the greatest execution. And then by the second day we were 15th out of 32 with 7, and we still figured we'd get better. And then the next day we didn't really have the crazy bite windows, but we still were able to boost it up to 10 and then finish 7th out of 32, which was pretty respectable. And we, you know, probably our best moments over there, you know, for me, remembering when I know how proud some of these guys are from these other countries, and they were really excited about, holy smokes, this US boat caught 10 Zanders today. You know, what the heck, because nobody was really catching Zander that good anymore after that, and are not catching him very well. And I had, you know, guys I know from ice that were coaching the Ukrainian team, and they're usually a powerhouse on ice. You know, they drug me right over after the tournament. We're like, you got to tell us where you were and what you were using and how you're getting the Zander to bite, you know. And same with England, you know, they were saying they were getting the bites and not getting hooked up. And so we made some key adjustments, and it's just nice to know you made a little noise over there. Like my old buddy Pete always says, well, you didn't get sand kicked in your face, you know. And I don't think by any means Ryan and I got sand kicked in our face. We put on a pretty good show, and effectively it wasn't the outcome we wanted, but based on what we were dealt for cards, and I think, you know, we did the best we could with the hand we were dealt, you know, and the amount of time we had. We optimized and fished pretty strong by the time all was said and done.
I mean, you had what, 5 days to dial in a fishery that you've never laid physical eyes on or seen. So
right.
I think you guys did a hell of a time.
Like I
hell of a
said,
job.
it was a heck of a challenge, you know. So, and you know,
Well,
yeah.
the guy that took the individual, one of the half of the team that was in the individual gold boat, who also their team won the gold medal from Estonia. He's a sponsor for my ice team that gives us our ice augers, our hand augers, and he owns that company, Nero Ice Augers, Evo. And he told me, you know, I was like, man, we kind of, could have had a better showing at the end. And he's like, Nick, you know, in 2 days we didn't have a clue what was going on here. He said, you just have to train longer. You know, he said it took our team a long time to figure out the bite for the first they were on. So, you know, I understand that. And just like you say, it's more fuel for the fire. Give you a little bit more drive for the next time, and see if we can, you know, if we get funding for it, great. You know, maybe time commitment wise, it's something where some of these teams, any of the disciplines, block where even if like break it into shifts where one boat would 2 guys go over there for a week and then tag out with the next 2 for a week and then the next 2 for a week, and potentially string together 3 weeks, you know, even with everybody taking an extra week, you know, before the cutoff, or even if it was less than that, even if we had like 2 guys go for 2 or 3 or 4 guys go for a week, and even just graphing the body of water so you kind of have an idea what you're getting into before you arrive there, I think would be huge. So that's kind of something to think about and chew on going into the off season, thinking about where we're going to be next.
So you were, with all of the adjustments that you were making, you were specifically, we're talking about the different retrieves and the different angles and, Did you have to experiment with different line sizes, different colors of baits as well, or is it mostly just a speed issue?
I think for the most part, I ran stuff I'm most comfortable with, and I don't think, I mean, we both were using a super line main line. I was using, I had rods with Sunline SX1 and the Sunline Plasma grade as well. And I usually use like a 12-pound main line, which is a really fine diameter. And then we probably both alternated a little bit with leader size, but at the end of the day, knowing that was darker water and we were fishing in 26 feet of water, you could easily get away with, I was using Sunline shooter for a shooter or sniper for a lead, and about a 3 foot lead was plenty. Fluorocarbon to my braid, and using either 12 or 14 pound was not a problem, just because of the dirty water, and it's also important too to have enough beef to where you could get a good hook set in them if you get a bite on that initial drop way out away from the boat. So I use a pretty stiff rod, so I have to use the heavier leader. So I give it to them pretty hard. So.
Yeah, I mean, kind of went with confidence baits, just, and then, you look at the forage of the lake. I remember I walked down there the first night, after dark, me and Max walked down and shined a flashlight in the water, and you just saw a ton of like little perch, like 3-inch perch, like all over. I'm like, well,
There you go.
perch colored stuff, some, bright oranges and chartreuses and stuff, and then also you just see like big white minnows swimming around too, so it's like, well, the simple thing you can do with something like that is, match the hatch, so I was basically kind of just went with white stuff or like perchy, chartreusey, orangish type stuff, and went from there. And then it was just kind of like, then it's more looking at the action of the bait. I was throwing mostly those on the swim bait heads. I was throwing the Northland slurp heads, which I think is a great swim bait head. One thing is it no matter, whether you're, it's out at a distance or even right under the boat, it lays that swim bait, just kind of stays just pretty much right horizontal. And then it's got a nice thin wire hook. So you can get that hook set, in that fish pretty easily. You don't have to like really, totally hammer it, it's not like you're ripping it through weeds or anything like that. So
Right.
that was a good hook, for that. And then, yeah, just, confidence baits, is what it came down to.
Right.
What was the average size swim baits you were throwing? On
We
those
were
small jig heads.
throwing, most of what we were throwing was, I did pretty good on the 4-inch Kayak Easy Shiner, and then the Walleye Assassin, which is similar. I think that's a 3.5 or 4-inch, I believe, paddle tail. We did catch some in practice. I know Nick caught one in practice on quite a bit bigger. I think that was like maybe a 4.6 or something. And then it caught one on a fluke too. But that Kayak Easy Shiner and the Walleye Assassins were, our go-tos for
Nice.
me. I think yeah.
Well, we pretty much covered all the other questions that I had as far as technique and Zander. I feel a lot more confident. There was some things that I came across in research, that kind of led me to the swim baits. And there's a show on YouTube called Zander Pro. I don't know if you guys familiar with that. But all those guys, that's what they're throwing is those swim baits, but they're all big jig heads. So I don't have anything small.
The one thing that's nice about a swim bait is like, I took a whole bunch of jerk baits and crank baits and all that kind of stuff, and, I mean, you think about it like in a reservoir or river system, those Zander, they're not, I mean, they did suspend a little bit. We saw them, but they're easier to tar you right on the bottom, and the swim bait, it's easy to, keep it on the bottom or adjust that in through various depths, you know, whereas, you know, crankbaits or, you know, other things like that. So, you know, that's something like, you know, going to a river like you guys or a reservoir, like, you know, similar to ours, that's, you know, a good advantage of that. You know, the other thing is, you know, Nick got a couple, how many, I think he got like 2 or 3 of them on a blade bait too. The
Yeah, I
last
was
day,
gonna
you
say
know?
On the last day, and I knew it worked. I know I'd seen the Hungary team catch a few on a blade bait, and that's a just crazy confidence bait for me this time of year. I'm just feel like I just like I know I'm gonna catch them on this, and that's kind of the way I'm like. Whenever things got slow, Ryan and I used the attitude where we always kept one of us using something that we know is working the best. And then if we hit a lull, one guy would experiment, and always one using what we know works. And sometimes it paid off and sometimes it didn't. We made some changes, and you know, we started out mostly with the chartreuse, and then I think at one point Ryan switched to white and whacked a couple quick ones, and you know, we ended up switching more to like a more of a natural and a white. And then, you know, we were on that for a while, and when that got slow on that last day, I thought, you know, I'm going to keep firing through some different stuff. And I tried a gold blade bait, you know, a simple gold 1/2 ounce blade bait. And it was really sunny out, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna catch one on this. And I fished it as slow as I possibly could stand it. And I still was trying to just short crank that thing so it barely left the bottom, just you know, just a half reel turn at a time, and trying to do the same kind of presentation as the swim bait. And you know, I eventually, you know, pretty quick, that when I picked it up, I caught one real close to the boat, and he was barely hooked. We got that one, and then, you know, we were kind of in a lull again, and then I bomb casted, and I got one first hop and fought one a long ways back to the boat with it. And I think, yeah, I ended up catching 3 on it on the last day, and then ended up last fish I caught on the swim bait again. But so again, it was a confidence bait. I felt like I knew the cadence that I needed to fish with, and just had the confidence to give it a try and try to present the way I thought they needed it presented, and was able to capitalize on that. Maybe something that some of those fish hadn't seen all week.
Awesome.
It sounds like a great time. I'm really looking forward to going for the Kayak Fishing World Championship next week. And you know, maybe when we come back, we can kind of bring you guys back on again and switch roles, and you guys can kind of take over, and we can just talk more Zander.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you what, you know, I just thought of this too. You know, you're asking about pieces of advice and packing. And one thing that Nick and I talked about, you know, that would have been nice to have is, you know, you go over there and you're graphing around and using electronics and, you know, trying to read things, you know, your sonars and forward facing sonar. Well, you know, just like any other fishery, there's a lot of other fish in there beside your target species, you know. And when you hinted on, you got a clear water reservoir, it would have been nice to have a camera sometimes, you know. So I don't, you know, they have those little mini aquaview cameras that you can, you know, are very portable, and it would be nice to have had that, to just be like, okay, what are these fish, you know, or what is this bait look like, you know, or like, you know. So that might be something you want to think about, you know, if you can get your hands on that, you know.
That's a great idea. I mean, even a GoPro on a string, you know, if it's new enough, you should be able to just transfer it over to your phone once you get it back up, obviously.
It's nice to see it. Well, yeah, I don't know that GoPro technology like you do, but I mean, it's nice to just boom, see it right there, you know, what
real time
right next to what your sonar is showing too, you know. And then okay, this is exactly this spot too, you know. So
Yeah.
I think, Ryan, about the schools of bait fish we saw early on when we started graphing, there was kind of weird, I mean, just the way the bait was assembled looked different than what we're used to. You know, they're kind of big, loose schools, and we're like, I don't know what they are. You know, I still don't know if those were perch suspended in big, loose schools like that.
yeah,
You know, I think that some of them were the smaller perch were kind of up off bottom and then big, kind of loose schools, not really dense. And then there was schools that were dense, and then there was, packs of the bigger perch roaming on bottom, and just a lot of different dynamics going on for fish species that we're not used to. So it would have been nice to just drop the camera and look and say, okay, that's some kind of silver pelagic fish, or it's just perch roaming, and that gives you an idea of what bait you want to use, and you just another piece to the puzzle. So yeah, I mean, I have a couple of aquaview micro slice fish, and it would have been nice to just drop one of them down and get a look at what's down there.
Right.
Good idea.
Well, Mike, do you have any more questions?
Man, I don't. I just definitely, I'm excited as all get out, and I'm really thankful for you two guys to share some of your time and insight with us here tonight, and we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really a game changer, especially if you guys are walleye. You guys use a lot of the techniques that we use, Mike and I, to target walleye. So, hearing how you went through the progressions and what struggles and really what the solutions were. Honestly, I don't know if I would have thought to go lighter on the jig heads, or even if I would have been prepared for that. So who knows? Maybe you just helped us get the gold.
I hope so, man. Go Team USA, Heck yeah. I was pumped last week seeing our bass team win gold. I felt like I was part of the team, even though those guys probably don't have a clue who I am. I still felt like, I was like pumped for them, like, yeah, good USA, go gold. It just made me like the fire burn harder, like they defended their home turf this year, and, makes me want to even do it, that much more for next year, so. And
Yeah,
I'll be pumped to see you guys do well too, so.
Well, we're excited.
Well, Ryan, Nick, thanks for joining us today. Mike, thanks for coming on, being a guest host. And like I said, maybe we'll talk about doing a flip when we come back. You guys can do the interviews, and we'll talk more Zander, talk more techniques, and educate some more anglers.
Yeah,
Sounds great, guys. Good luck and enjoy your adventure. Enjoy every minute of it. It's a great life experience, and stay focused as much as you possibly can, and just use your instinct and keep your head in it, and just try to keep making good decisions, stacking them up, and things will play out. So hopefully,
all right.
For you. Good luck.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Yep,
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. Don't forget to leave us a review and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. We will see you on the next episode. And remember, for me, fishing is life.